I am on 160 acres of beautiful regenerative multi-species pasture in Gippsland, Victoria with Jackie Czechley. Jackie and her husband Steve are managing this property in fascinating ways, and in the coming weeks we're going to be talking about all sorts of things, from fences to rotational grazing to establishing tree lines. What are we going to be looking at today, Jackie?
Today we're going to be looking at fencing and paddock layout as you're planning your Regen enterprise. Hey girls. Oh, I know you're hungry. Hey girls. What's going on? Starving? Starving hungry? You starving? Holy bully bully. Hello. There you go. There you go. Have some breakfast.
Now, you just completed a stock movement. How often do you move these girls every day?
So I'm moving these girls twice a day.
Yep.
So there's 50 cattle on this paddock is less than a hectare, so they'll be in here for about 3 days.
Right. Now, I'm really keen to find out, you're using strip grazing, using the good old Gallagher reels for the strip grazing to control them, and you've got reels set up all the way through this paddock ready to go. I'm very interested in how you're managing not only the strip grazing, but I've had questions from viewers about managing water with strip grazing in paddocks as well. Your design has to be pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I designed this farm before I put a fence in. So I designed it so the paddocks were about a hectare or less each, so that each day or each paddock the cows would be in there really for a maximum of 3 days. So I've put the water source near the entrance to the paddock. So with my strip grazing, if I'm doing 6 or 7 moves a day or in a paddock in 3 days, then in the first strip graze, they've got access to fresh water. It's important that cows always have access to fresh water.
Now, you're not, we're standing on the old strip line here. This is where the reel was that you just took down. You're not replacing that now that the cattle have moved up. They've got free access to where they've been at all times throughout this strip grazing, and so they always start off at the trough and move themselves away from it.
Yeah, so I start at the trough. The trough's at the entrance to the paddock, and we strip away from that. So yes, they can come back to water. So, but where they've been in the last feed, they've eaten everything, stomped it, pooed and peed on it, so there's no reason for them to come back. So they might come back for water, but they'll return to the fresh strip that I've just given them. So
and you can see they're really eager to move into the fresh feed. You know, a day is long enough, isn't it?
Well, half a day, yeah, absolutely long enough, and that's why I've staggered it. Sometimes I might give them 3 moves a day.
Yep. If
I want them to be more consolidated, so it's cows short duration grazing with long rest time.
Because that's the rumination period, isn't it? You want them eating for a couple of hours and then you want them ruminating, don't you?
Yeah, so then they sit down and just enjoy the view for a while, but they're full, just so.
And when you watch their behaviour coming into the new paddock, they're really looking for the flowers first, you were saying?
Yeah, I've been watching them to try and see what it is that they eat first. Now, this is a full multi-species pasture with 2 different blends, so there's about 20 or 30 different species here, as well as all the species that nature gave me for free. And I was trying to watch them to see what it is they like. Now, a lot of the time they're going for the seeds or the flower pods, the seed pods or the flowers. So the flowers of vetch, the brassicas, there's about 8 or 9 different types of brassicas, including wild radish. They like the peas, they like the phacelia, which I didn't think cows are supposed to like, but my cows didn't read that memo and they eat it. But it looks like they graze the top third, and then they come back later after they've taken the cream of the crop and then shoot through the rest of the plants.
And by keeping them in a small area, you got 50 head in this very small area. That's making them be very economical with the feed and use it all. You're utilising everything in that area rather than having them wander around the paddock and pick what they want.
Yeah, I don't want them to be selective grazing. I want them to eat everything. So because of the large number in the small area, they're eating competitively, so everything they see, they'll eat because somebody else might get it. So what they don't eat, they've either trampled or slept on or peed or pooed on, and I'm happy for that to be left in the paddock to keep the soil covered. It's not bare, but there is a lot that has been trampled.
So water is critical with livestock, and in every one of these 1 hectare paddocks, and you've got about, what, 30 odd of them?
32
you've
paddocks.
Got one of these concrete troughs.
Yes, in every paddock they've got access to water near the entrance to the paddock.
And how many litres of water are in this trough?
So this is about 800 litres of water. The troughs are probably bigger than what I might need, but they're also a backup if I run out of water. I know I've got at least 20 days of water just in the troughs.
Without worrying about your header tanks, because you actually run a gravity fed system and you run mains through mostly your laneways.
So yeah, so spring fed water is the source into a header tank, and then gravity fed through the mains to the troughs through the centre of the laneways.
And where you do have dams and paddocks, you fence them off because livestock in your dams is never a good idea?
Absolutely. The dams I see as an environmental area, but not for cows. So for frogs, for beneficials, for pollinators, and for other microbes and small amphibians and all sorts of other critters.
And clean water grows cattle quicker.
Clean water is absolutely empirical. I do also add lab to my water every evening when the cows are in the paddocks, and so lactobacillus bioferts, and that's to add microbes into the water that the cows then drink, then gets added to their rumen, and then they deposit it out in the paddocks for me.
So you're getting more efficient rumination from a very small area, and you're utilising all the feed in that area with clean water.
Absolutely.
Let's go and have a look at the poo. You want to talk about that?
Okay, so
you're particularly proud of your poo, Jackie. You reckon it tells a good story about the way you're grazing?
yeah, it does. So we're in the middle of a spring, traditionally the time where the cows are pooing through the eye of a needle, but in this paddock we've got a relatively solid looking poo, got a good dung score, so the cows are getting good rumination, they're getting plenty of fibre in their diet, but not too much.
How do you tell a good poo from a bad one, Jackie?
So a good poo usually is quite solid with a little dollop in the top, in the middle. There's a little divot in the top, perfect poo.
So that divot comes from just the right consistency, not too firm, not too sloppy. You don't want to see squirts and you don't want to see firm. The other thing about the half-day intervals with your rotational grazing is there's a lot of poo in a very small area. The cattle aren't likely to want to come back to this area to eat or sleep again, are they? It's going to keep them moving.
That's right. So the free fertility that we get from the cow poo is spread evenly across the paddock. So the paddock that they're in for today, when they've had their fill, they're going to sit down and sleep. They're certainly not going to come back to this area and sleep over here. So to keep moving them forward, a fresh bit of pick twice a day. They have their fill, sit down, have a sleep, get up, repeat next half day.
And you're only moving one fence twice a day?
One fence twice a day.
Let's
About
go and have a look
half an
at what they're eating.
No worries.
Now you've also worked pretty hard on your plant diversity, and we're going to do a separate video just about plants. But it rates a mention if you're rotationally grazing, not just to be grazing your cattle on one or two types of plants, but to have some diversity.
Absolutely. So I've got diversity for a number of reasons. So one of them is for the health of the cattle. So if they've got access to a diverse range of plants, they've got access to a diverse range of antioxidants, polyphenols, all the secondary metabolites that are necessary for their health overall.
Do you find that different types of plants also bring with them different types of microbes, which helps rumen?
Absolutely. So with the different types of plants, so the seeds that they start with, they have their own little microbes encapsulated in the seed. So when they start growing, they're adding diversity of microbes to the soil, but also as they're a growing plant, they have different microbes on their leaves and on their stems and in their flowers, and that adds to the diversity in the rumens of the cows.
Now you've got some pretty interesting plants here. You were saying to me before that there's a few here that you planted for your bees because you're a beekeeper, that you're finding that the cattle are eating that they're not supposed to.
Yeah, so in this diverse mix that I planted was a mix of pollinator species. So things like Phacelia, which has got a purple flower like this. Now that was planted for the bees, so it can have lots of flowers. Cows aren't supposed to eat it, but my cows didn't read the memo, so they're eating all of that.
And they're going straight for the seed heads as soon as you let them in. They're not grazing down low, are they?
So initially, no, they're just taking off the top third, so the flowers and the seed pods. The seed pods are fairly high in protein, so they're liking that. And then when they come for their second graze, then they're going harder down lower.
And in terms of timing, when you let the cattle on the pastures, you're not worried about stages of growth of grass. You're just aiming for seed and flower production, aren't you?
So I do like it to go to seed, so then it can self-seed, so I don't need to sow it every year. But also, I like the flowers for my bees.
People will say if you're letting your stuff go to seed, then you're losing production capacity. But actually, your cattle eat less than they would if they were on, say, a straight ryegrass, and you put that down to bricks.
Absolutely. So the multi-species pastures have been proven to hold their nutritional value even when they go to flower and go to seed. So they've got a higher bricks, so each cow needs less mouthful for the same amount of nutrition.
So we've really got to break ourselves out of this one or two species paradigm that we've been so used to because it was easy to measure when we were doing science on grazing, and we've got to start to look at animals and plants working in tandem and working in a very biodiverse way to produce the protein and the carbohydrates that the animals need at the particular time of season.
Yeah, so we're trying to mimic the original grazing on the plains, so moving the cows over intensively for a short period of time with a long rest period. But nature is very complex, so we need diversity in the system to fix whatever ails the soil. So this is a wild radish that's growing here, so the soil, obviously I didn't plant that, but the seed's in the seed bank and it grew. Now when we have a look at what the cows have already grazed over, you'll see that my cows ate that. They didn't get the memo not to eat it.
So Jackie, the strip grazing is working wonders not just with your animals that are gaining weight every day, but it's working with the whole environment as well. This paddock was fairly depleted when you took it on a couple of years ago. It had been used as a winter rest paddock with hay rings.
Yeah, used all of winter. We get most of our rainfall in winter, so the paddock was just covered in mud. The hay rings weren't moved, they were just added to. So the cows were in the same paddock for months at a time with the hay rings. So it was just deep mud, nothing else.
When you were setting out your property, when you took it over a couple of years ago, small paddocks were on the agenda, not just strip grazing, but small paddocks as well. You only want to strip graze a paddock for 3 days maximum. Can you explain why?
Okay, so the cows come in and they graze the plant down to the ground, and then after 3 days that plant starts growing new shoots. Those shoots are really tender and sweet, and if the cows have got access to them, they will chew them off.
And that's using up the reserves in the roots, isn't it, to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with my strip grazing and my smaller paddocks, if the cows are only in the paddock for a maximum of 3 days, they're out of that paddock before the first shoots start growing again.
So layout of your hard fences is critical before you start thinking about strip grazing, because you want to limit the amount of time that the cattle are in the one paddock regardless of strip grazing or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I want to go away, I can have somebody come and move the cows every 3 days. That's not ideal for how I farm, but it can happen. So if they move the cows every 3 days, I'm still getting that rotational grazing, get the cows off the new shoots that are just starting to grow.
And what a difference 2 years of good solid strip grazing makes to the environment. Look at this.
Yeah, it's absolute. I think if you do nothing else, rotationally graze or strip grazing before you do anything else.
Guys, if you like this video, don't forget hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification, because Jackie's got a lot more to teach us in coming weeks. She's going to do more videos on a range of really interesting regen subjects, and you don't want to miss out. Jackie, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. And guys, we'll see you again next week with something else.